Hello, peeps. TwistedFoot here, bringing you back in time to World of Warcraft. I wanted to start playing this game again, or checking out this game a little bit again. This was the first real PC game that I ever played, and I started playing it about must be about 7 years ago. Yeah, back in 2010 when Cataclysm was released. And I started out as a Draenei shaman, and I am back on that character. And if we look at my achievements, let's go into general, and if we look at level, so if we look at when I reached level 10, I reached level 10 on this character on 12/16 of 2010. And of course now I'm still a shaman, but I've race changed this character, and I've also name changed him. When I started out, my name was TwistedFoot, and it was a Draenei shaman. And we started out here in Amon Vale. And of course I did all of the starting quests in here. You come down, you have to kill some of these moths, and you have to revive, use your racial to revive a downed soldier. I kind of played a little bit through on the start of a new Draenei shaman, just to kind of remember just a little bit what it was like to start. So I just wanted to kind of touch some of that really quickly to start off some of these some World of Warcraft videos. Like I said, this character started out as TwistedFoot, and it was a Draenei shaman, because I thought that looked really cool and sounded really cool. And when I started playing, I bought the starter pack, and I downloaded the starter pack and started playing. And of course Cataclysm had been released at the time, but I didn't have a copy of Cataclysm. I had everything up through Lich King, but I didn't have Cataclysm yet. And this was so long ago that I actually purchased Cataclysm online for the actual box set of it. So I had to wait for the box to actually come in the mail, so I could get the code to actually be able to install Cataclysm. So one thing I remember is from questing on this isle, I remember trying to do as much of the quests as I could, because I really didn't really know any better back then. But if I remember right, I don't remember positively if it's this way. I think it's this way. But there was a quest where you had to wait for an NPC guy to come down this path. And I remember first running into him, I don't think I was quite ready to meet up with that guy. And if I remember right, he owned me pretty good the first time that I saw him. and met him. It might have been the other way. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily care for the graphics on World of Warcraft, but I always thought they were cool. I enjoyed them and actually still like them. Now, the only reason I really stopped playing World of Warcraft was because my computer got old and I could handle like going out and doing quests and playing just basic playing that way, but I couldn't handle doing like world bosses and definitely couldn't handle doing raids. My computer would lag out so bad that I would be casting spells and stuff and nothing would be happening. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where that quest was at, where you had to wait for that NPC to come down the path and then you had to kill him. And I first ran into the guy when I definitely was not ready to fight that higher of a level NPC. And of course I was a brand new player back then, so I didn't have any decent gear, no heirlooms, nothing like that. I was just basically rocking the starter gear. And then one of the other main things that I really remember when I first got started was getting the quest to go see Old Man Winter, because it was Wintervale was going on, and I remember getting that quest and then clicking on it to open up the map, and then opening up the map and then zooming out and not being able to see that quest on the map, and then clicking out one more time and bringing up the entire world and seeing the little exclamation point over here on Iron Forge saying that's where I had to go to meet Old Man Winters. And I'm way over here, mind you, as probably maybe a level 10, 11 or so. Brand new to the game. Had no clue, knew nothing about portals, nothing like that yet. Didn't know the flight paths to get to from here to Darnassus, to get to either the boat that runs to Stormwind or any of that. So I like pop open the map and I'm like looking, and I'm like trying to think of like, how in the heck am I supposed to get all the way over there when I'm way over here on this little tiny island on this side of the world? And I just kept thinking to myself and wondering to myself, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to get there? And I started playing with a group of real life friends from work, and this guild that I'm still in is still made up of some of those people, but they've all moved on to different games and stuff. So you'll see a lot of these people haven't logged in for 4 or 5 years. Of course, some of these are their alts and stuff, but that's when I started playing. It was with them, and they had been playing for a while prior to me joining, so most of them got burnt out and stopped playing before I did. So that's kind of the story about where I got started. And then from starting out as a Draenei Shaman, and I only played a Draenei Shaman for like a week or two at most, until my copy of Cataclysm came. And then once my copy of Cataclysm came, I made a switch to a Worgen, because obviously with Cataclysm, Worgens were introduced. And I started a Worgen Warlock.
Led by their indomitable king, Genn Greymane, the proud citizens of Gilneas once stood with the Alliance against the vile, orcish horde that sought to conquer all of Lordaeron. Gilneas survived, but in the chaotic years following the Second War, the mighty kingdom drew ever inward. Distrustful of their former allies, the Gilneans erected a mighty wall at the borders of their land, closing off their nation and their hearts from an ever-darkening world. Now, many years later, as the seemingly unstoppable undead scourge marches across Lordaeron, human civilization once again teeters on the brink of destruction. As war and terror close in all around them, the citizens of Gilneas are faced with one terrible truth. Their mighty wall cannot hold back the dead for much longer. And worse, rumors of a new threat have arisen within the kingdom's borders, of feral nightmare creatures that walk upright as men, but hunt and howl as wolves.
We protected Gilneas from the scourge. We protected Gilneas during the
So,
Rebellion.
once I received my copy of Cataclysm, I installed Cataclysm right away, and seeing that I could become a Worgen. And so I started off with a Worgen Warlock, because there was only one other Warlock in the guild at the time. So I wanted to be as much of a help as I could to the guild. So I started doing the quests, obviously, in the Worgen starting area. And you start off in Gilneas, and then it expands out to the rest of Gilneas around us until you reach the end of the quest line, and then it puts you into Stormwind. So you can see the Worgens. And there was some pretty cool quest lines and stuff that were in this starting area. It was a fun starting area to start out in. One of my favorite parts of it was there's a part where you get to shoot cannons at Worgens that are trying to charge into the cathedral. And there's some pretty cool cinematics and some pretty cool plot lines and lore that they put into the starting area. And the name of the character that I started, and I ran as a Worgen Warlock as my main for quite a while, and his name was TwistedFoot. And I still have TwistedFoot, and he is still a Warlock. And he is still a worgen. And one of the other funny things that I remember when I was leveling up for the first time, because I stopped leveling. Obviously, I stopped leveling the shaman after I don't know. I want to say, I don't know if I made it to level 10 on the shaman or not. See, this one made it to level 10 on the 20th of December in 2010, and I reached level 20 4 days later, level 30 3 days later after that, level 40 was 2 days later, level 50 was 3 days later, level 60 was 3 days later after that. And then it starts to slow down, where it took me 6 days to get to 70. And then 13 days to get to 80. And another 8 days to get to 85, which was the cap back then. I'm pretty sure it was 85 in Cataclysm. But one thing I remember as I was questing, I remember getting put out into, after coming out of the starting area for the worgens. I remember coming to Stormwind and then heading out to Red Ridge Mountains. I remember that being like one of the first places that I ended up going to go quest. And I remember doing a lot of running, wishing that I could get to the point where I could get a mount, only to realize that I believe it was at level 20 that worgens got their racial, which was Dark Flight. No, it's Running Wild. And like I said, I believe Running Wild becomes active at, I think you learn it at level 20. And I was probably 24. No, maybe even farther than that. I might have been closer to 30 before I realized that I had the racial Running Wild. And the whole time I was busy out questing, I was running this speed basically from one spot to the next spot to do quests, when as I was waiting to get to the point to be able to learn the actual use of mount, where I was a worgen and I didn't need to. I could have been using my Running Wild ability the whole time. You know, you see this game, even for being this old, there's still a level 14 character here, a level 9 monk just ran by me. So there's still like new players playing this game on a regular basis for a game that's as old as this game is. So, from my warlock, I then switched to a different main, which ended up being my druid. And if we hop in here, we can log out quicker. So after starting the Worgen and leveling the Worgen up to the level cap at the time, I did some dungeons and things like that with the guild, and then I started my druid, and as you can see, my druid became my main because this is the time when I switched my original Draenei shaman's name from TwistedFoot to Twisted Shock, and then I created TwistedFoot, the druid, and it's a night elf druid, and this became my main that I played pretty much exclusively until the guild pretty much stopped playing. And then at that point, I transitioned, towards the end of that, I had transitioned over to playing a Shadow Priest. So if we look at this one, so this one I reached level 10 on January 9th. And see, it took me a while just playing it sporadically before I capped it out. But then I played this character for quite some time, and I still enjoy the druid. The druid is still one of my favorite classes. I always enjoyed playing as a cat and being able to prowl. We used to run out to Hellfire Peninsula and gank low-level horde players out in Hellfire Peninsula. We would go up to Thrallmar, and you could, because everybody comes through the dark portal, and then Alliance goes to Honor Hold and Horde goes to Thrallmar, and we would go up there and we would stealth around. Me and my friend would go up there, and he was a rogue, so we would both stealth around and we would gank low-level Horde players. And then from there, from this character, so from my druid, I leveled all the other classes too. I switched over to a priest, and I have a priest that I used as a main for a while on Alliance side back on the Frostwolf server. But at that time the guild had kind of died down, and I found a guild on Arthas somehow, and I started playing with them, and I was playing as a priest. And at this time is when I took on using a character named Wicked Lester, and I used that on basically my co-main. So I'll typically have been running two mains when I was playing, and one would be named TwistedFoot, and one would be named Wicked Lester, with the priest being my primary main. And I was on Arthas in a guild, and we were running it's been so long. What was the name? We were running we were running Madness of Deathwing or Dragon Soul. And we were running Dragon Soul like all the time. Like, we would run it 2 to 3 times a night. We all had a bunch of alts. So we would jump on one alt, we would run it through. We would jump on another alt, we would run it through, and we would jump on another alt and run it through. And then we would go and pug in other players from Arthas to come do the raid with us. And that was a lot of fun. And then a lot of the players, the main players that I was becoming friends with and raiding with in that guild, decided that they had enough playing when Mist of Pandaria came out, or shortly after Mist of Pandaria came out. And I remember that was my first true expansion, was when Mist of Pandaria came out. And I remember staying awake waiting for the servers to open up so I could get started leveling as quickly as I could. I took the day off from work and I played for as long as I could, trying to get through to the next level cap as quickly as I could. And then they all stopped playing, and one of the original friends from Frostwolf had started playing in this guild called Fights in the Shade, and we're on Shadow Council. So I transferred my priest over here, and I've started playing with them over here, and now this is where my priest still is at, and it's currently during the last expansion before this, I actually had one of every class, both on Horde side and on Alliance side, up to level cap. But then the kids are starting to get older, and I started cutting back on how much I was playing. So currently right now, this is the only character that I have at max level. So what I'm going to do, now that I've kind of gone from the beginning of when I started playing WoW to where we're sitting at now, what I'm going to do is, my friend that was playing in this on this guild in this server is now playing on Thrall. So what I'm going to do is start up a brand new character on Thrall and start recording some gameplay as I'm leveling up again. Right now I only have a month subscription, and so we'll see where we get in that month. As I've said before, I don't see myself playing this game too much longer after that month goes, but we'll see. Really not a huge fan of the subscription model anymore, and this game really is not, it's kind of tough to play if you don't play it daily. You can get behind so quick with gear and everything else. So you can kind of see a list of my characters. So like on this server, my two co-mains basically were Wicked Lester and TwistedFoot, which, like I said before, is kind of what I've been doing on most servers. So if we jump back to Frostwolf, which is where I started at, I have Wicked Lester, which is my human priest, and TwistedFoot, which is my druid, which were my two mains at the end of my time playing on Frostwolf. If we go to Airy Peak, which I played on there for a little bit with some people from when I was in the CTR guild. So I have Wicked Lester, which is another priest, and TwistedFoot, which is another druid. But actually, I utilized on here, it was Wicked Lester and Wickedfoot as my two mains on here. And then I still have some characters on Arthas. And of course, one's Wicked Lester, and I don't actually have a TwistedFoot on this because I had a TwistedFoot, and TwistedFoot is now on Blackwater Raiders because I moved all my characters. So here's TwistedFoot on Blackwater Raiders. So actually and Blackwater Raiders is joined with Shadow Council. So these two servers are together. And I have actually two TwistedFoots in that guild. And then Nathrazim is where I first started playing Horde. And of course I have TwistedFoot, which is a hunter, and Wicked Lester, which is a priest. So I think that'll be all for this episode. That pretty much wraps up my story of my WoW playing career so far. So we will wrap this up here. Like I said, I'm going to be starting to level a new character on Thrall. I haven't decided for sure which class I'm going to utilize. There is a possibility that I might transfer this priest over to Thrall, so I can actually maybe get in on the guild over there and basically get carried through some of the newer raids and stuff, so I could see what those look like. And if that's the case, then I probably won't want to level another priest. So maybe a hunter. It'll either be a hunter or a druid, I think. I guess I could level a priest though. I enjoy playing the priest now. So I guess I could, even though I'm going to could potentially transfer this priest over there, I could still level one up. But we are going to wrap this episode up here. And thanks everybody for watching, coming along with me down memory lane. It's been kind of fun to get back into checking out World of Warcraft. I thought about doing some other things, but I haven't figured out exactly how I want to do it. There's some specific quest lines that I remember doing as I was leveling up through the first time, and it would be kind of cool to go back and experience those again. But I don't know. I think might only be able to do those through the Alliance side, because that's where I started out at and that's where I was leveling at to begin with. But I do think you can get over to those zones as a Horde player pretty quickly. So it is possible that I could jump over there and level up through that way. But there's a lot of my characters started out as, even a lot of these characters started out as Alliance characters and got transferred over to the Horde side to different servers. And so there's like basically a lot of the world in Kalimdor, I think is how you say the continent. There's a lot of questing areas in there that I haven't really done much questing in. But over the next week or so, I'll make my decision as to what class I want to level, along with what race I want to level. And then we will go from there and just start making a few videos here and there. I don't think it'll turn into a big Let's Play or anything, but if there's a demand for it, obviously I will put out more content. But for now, it's just going to start off as kind of a fun going down memory lane and revisiting World of Warcraft. So again, thanks for watching, and hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and subscribe if you want to see more content. And I will talk to everybody later. See ya.